SOEs.
Question number 4, the Honourable Annette King.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. My question's to the Prime Minister. Has the underclass, as he called it, increased or decreased since he became Prime Minister?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr Speaker, the member will be aware that just as the government does not collect statistics on the number of hard-working Kiwis or on those on, quote, the other side of town that her party leader refers to, neither do we keep a measure of the number of people who could be described as belonging to an underclass in New Zealand. However, I can report that this government has, through a number of policies, tackled the problems that, under Labour, simply removed hope and opportunity from their liir
Supplementary question, Mr Speaker. If this government has, as the Prime Minister claims, tackled issues that the previous government didn't, why are we seeing headlines like this? Headlines that say 3,607 beg for help to live, with the City Missioner saying there is a new level of poverty emerging as incomes stay the same and prices rise. And has she got it wrong? Because he has been saying everybody's better off.
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr Speaker, I think it's worth remembering that wages on average have gone up about 16% and prices have gone up 6%. So that's a net increase of 10%. And I think it's worth contrasting that with Labor's really pathetic performance where over 9 years, in real terms, wages only went up 3%. What is true, of course, is that when there is a recession and you've had a Labour government that cared so little about education standards, it didn't mind whether people left school, whether they could read or write properly, then of course some of those people haven't had the skills and the recession has tossed them out of a job.
The Honourable Annette King.
If he is accurate in his claims, why did the Salvation Army, in their State of the Nation report, say, and he uses this report when it suits him, that demand for food parcel continue to break records and that food poverty now being witnessed by the Army is nearly twice what it was 4 years ago?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr Speaker, it's true that the global recession has seen more New Zealanders on a benefit, and that obviously has an impact. But what is actually also true is that anyone on a benefit actually has a lifestyle choice, and if one was to budget properly, one can pay one's bills. And that is true because the bulk of New Zealanders on a benefit do actually pay for food, their rent and other things. Now, some make poor choices and they don't have money left.
The Honourable Annette King.
Can he explain to the House how spending tens of thousands of dollars on a Community Max program to catch 38 horses for Tama Iti's dowry and then letting them go has helped to reduce the underclass in New Zealand?
The Right Honourable
Mr Speaker, I don't know the details of that Community Max scheme, but what I can say is the overall program has worked. 70% of all New Zealanders who went on Community Max are now no longer on a benefit. And I claim that to be success. Now, when I look at the Labour performance, what have they done? Nothing when it's come to those people other than carp on about it.
The Honourable Annette King.
Supplementary question, Mr Speaker. Who is the Minister responsible for the implementation of Community Max? And is Simon Power acting Minister at present? If so, has he been adequately briefed on the program before making comments on it?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr Speaker, the Minister of Social Development.
Moana Mackey.
Supplementary to the Prime Minister, what impact does he believe New Zealand's ever-worsening housing shortage is going to have on the ability of struggling families to access affordable and appropriate housing, given a national shortage of 70,000 dwellings, predicted further shortages of 25,000 dwellings over the next decade, a growing Housing New Zealand waiting list of nearly 11,000, an estimated 20,000 Kiwis now classified as homeless, and more than 80 Auckland families moving into overcrowded housing situations every week?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr Speaker, firstly, house prices, if anything, have been either falling or being flat, so there's not an indication actually of a housing shortage. Secondly, if someone actually wants to buy a house, there are two things that make a fundamental difference to that. The first is after-tax income, and this government has cut taxes, so after-tax income has risen. Second thing is getting under control of inflation. This government has got control of inflation, therefore interest rates have stayed low. So they are all the reasons why New Zealanders can get into a home. And the third thing is actually this government hasn't focused on buying new or building new state homes. What the government has focused on is getting more people into those homes, and that's why we've implemented a number of policies which have made a difference in that area.
Moana Maki.
Supplementary to the Prime Minister, can he confirm that he does not believe New Zealand is facing a housing shortage?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Well, Mr Speaker, what I can confirm is that house prices have either been falling or going sideways, and generally in a market when there's increased demand, prices rise.
Mr Speaker.
Point of order, the Honourable Trevor Mallard.
Mr Speaker, we have been trying to work with our team on straight questions. That was a question, a very straight one. It asked for an opinion on whether there'd been a housing shortage. And, sir, what... Of course you can seek an
Order,
opinion.
no, order.
Can for the last 5 years,
Order,
Jerry.
no order. But there shouldn't have been an interjection from the Leader of the House on a point of order. I hear what the member said, and actually it's not an unreasonable point of order that's been raised, because while the question didn't really seek an opinion, it asked the Prime Minister whether he can confirm that there is no housing shortage in New Zealand, to which the Prime Minister said, what I can confirm is something else. Now, that is not really addressing that question. I recognise that I don't expect the Prime Minister to give any particular answer, but really should address that question with respect to how the question related to a housing shortage or not, and the Prime Minister in answering should give some indication as what he understands with respect to a housing shortage or not. The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr Speaker, in some parts of New Zealand there will be housing shortages as the population increases, in others there won't, but overall prices have either been falling or staying the same, which doesn't indicate a shortage.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Can the Prime Minister confirm that the new housing starts are currently at the lowest rate in 45 years and that consequently the Master Builders Federation is predicting a major housing crisis within the next 18 months?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr Speaker, the first point is right, and that indicates that there isn't an overwhelming demand for housing at the moment. If there was, of course, there'd be enormous people piling in. And I think that reflects actually what's happening is that the government's policies are actually working, which is we are rebalancing the economy away from being one that's solely driven by housing into one that has a more diversified investment portfolio.
Question number 5.